Hi, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live Q&A. So I'm just decided to do a another Q&A because I did one about a week and a half ago, and it was just about Game of Thrones. However, so this one is going to be about everything but Game of Thrones. So I'll take questions on any questions you have, just as long as they are not Game of Thrones related. So I'd asked for questions before in the comments videos, and I actually only got one question. So it depends on how many people join me in the chat, how many people want to ask questions. I know I'm doing this on the weekday rather than the weekend, so I might not get as much people. So this could, in fact, be a very short video, and it could just be me talking to myself rather than the Q&A, but that's all good if that happens that way. I have some topics that I do want to talk about because there's a lot of things that I want to bring up, but I can't make a video for every little thing, especially now that I'm doing weekly episode reviews of Better Call Saul, Vikings, and Walking Dead, and the X-Files just finished, so that was 4, but now I'm down to 3, although I'm doing my overall review of the X-Files next week, so I'm not quite done with the X-Files yet. But just in some news on what's going to happen is in my what to expect in 2016 video, I said that I'll be covering Netflix shows, and I'll just do a single review of the entire series, but I kind of changed my mind on that a little bit. I decided for shows like House of Cards and Daredevil, which are coming out with new seasons next month in March, instead of just doing one video for them, I'm going to cover them in 4 videos. So I'll split the episodes in batches. I'll do episodes 1 through 5, and then episodes 6 through 9, and then 10 through 13, and then an overall season review. So I'll do 4 videos for each of those shows, which means I'm going to be quite busy in March because I'll be doing almost 6 videos a week, because I'll still be doing Better Call Saul, Vikings, Walking Dead, and in addition, I'll be doing House of Cards and Daredevil weekly, and plus 1 Game of Thrones video a week. So I've kind of put a huge workload on myself, and unfortunately for you Star Trek fans out there, that means I won't be able to get to any Star Trek videos or other videos about movies or other stuff for at least April. And then April, of course, we all know what happens in April. Game of Thrones starts, so then I'm going to get really busy then. But that's not till the end of April, so it gives me a little bit of breathing room. And by the time Game of Thrones starts, Walking Dead and Better Call Saul will finish, so that gives me a bit of breathing room. But the new shows will start. I think Fear the Walking Dead might be coming, and Vikings goes for a bit longer. And then Orphan Black is coming in April, and I'm probably going to cover that as well. Not quite sure how. Okay, so yeah, I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat. We have Ian Renfro, It's Me, KLC, JT, House Stark, and Don Willie. How's it going, Don? Yes, we will indeed bend the knee. So yeah, if you guys have any questions in the course of this Q&A about anything, absolutely anything that's not Game of Thrones, just go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. I'll go ahead and start with the one question I got. Well, it was one comment. It was actually 3 questions and 1 comment, so sort of a hidden horse there, but it was from Paul Z. And I'm tempted to say Z instead of Z because that's how they pronounce it here in New Zealand, and I've kind of gotten used to that. So it's sort of, I have conflicting sort of things whether to say Z or Z. But since I look on my demographics, and I think 75% or something, at least 60% of my viewerships are from America, so I tend to try to cater them towards them, which is easy because I am American. But there we go. Anyway, Paul Z, or I'll call him Paul Z. Yes. What Star Trek videos are you planning to make in the next few months? Okay, and that is a good question, and I talked about that a little bit, about how there won't be any Star Trek videos for a little while because I'm going to be busy with all these weekly reviews I decided to do, which is something I decided to do for 2016 because, I mean, to be honest, I decided a year ago that I wanted to do something like this, but I was hardly watching any TV shows. I was only watching Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, and Better Call Saul. Those are the only 3 shows I was watching as they aired. Like, other than that, I would just get DVDs out and watch seasons that aired like years ago. So it wasn't until like mid last year that I actually started watching more shows that are currently on. But back then, I decided like, oh, well, I'll do Better Call Saul because I'm watching that. So I actually did do Better Call Saul reviews last year, but I didn't do Walking Dead just because I'm not the biggest fan of The Walking Dead. And I find that now as I'm doing weekly Walking Dead episode reviews, I get a lot of people who disagree with me because they're bigger fans of the show than I am. And but that's okay. I mean, I decided I'll just do it anyway because, hey, I'm watching it weekly. Might as well just do it. But let me actually answer your question, which is what Star Trek videos I'm planning. So I'll give you a bit of a preview of what Star Trek videos to expect. So I always have a schedule. So I have a list, and I make it into a schedule of all the videos I'm planning. But it's very interchangeable because things come up, things happen, and it's sort of mess, and I have to rearrange it all the time, which is why I typically don't announce publicly what my plans are because they're always changing. But Paul Z, since you asked, I will give you a little preview. So in terms of Star Trek, I'm not planning on doing one until like the 10th of March or the 11th of March because, as I said, for the next week I'll be really busy. I think that's 2 weeks from now because next week I'll be really busy with all these episodes. But the 10th of March is before Daredevil starts, so I can get in a little video about Star Trek before that starts. And I planned on doing the episode that you requested, These Are the Voyages, which is the Star Trek Enterprise episode. But as I said, I told you in the comments, if somebody else, since you already got in 2 Star Trek request episodes, and I typically only do 1 per person, I'm making exceptions for Enterprise, but it's kind of pushing it, but I'm going to do that unless I get another request for a Star Trek Enterprise episode. If I get another Enterprise episode request, then I'll do that instead. But so far, that's the next video I have planned and if it is someone else does request it, then I'll do that then anyway. So I'm definitely going to do an Enterprise episode review around the 10th of March. Let's see. And after that, the next week, so around the 17th of March, St. Paddy's Day, I'll do my top 10 Star Trek Klingon episodes, which will be good because I did the time travel and the Romulans. So, around mid-March or late March, I'll do the Klingons. And then, let's see, after that's when I get busy because Daredevil comes back in House of Cards, and I won't have time for anything else until, oh God, quite a ways away. Let's see. Until, late April, just before Game of Thrones starts. So maybe 2 Star Trek videos in March and another one in April, which would be top 10 Star Trek alternate reality parallel universe episodes. But as I say, it's ever changing. So if I get more Star Trek episode reviews within that time, I might try to cram them in somewhere. Maybe I'll have to push some of those top 10 that I'm planning on doing back to later. But that's the answer to that question. Okay, so let's see what's going on in the chat real quick. There's a couple people in here. It's me, KSC. I'm on the season 1 finale of X-Files. I still got a long way to go. Oh, you're talking about season 1 of the main series? Yeah. I recently watched all 9 seasons. Not recently. I think it took me from August to November, I would say, and it's so time-consuming. And frankly, I don't think it's like I like the X-Files, but I'm not the biggest fan. Like someone commented on one of my top 10 episodes of the X-Files and like, you're not a true fan. I'm like, well, if being a true fan means I have to like the same episodes everyone else likes, and okay, fine, I'm not a true fan. But I like the show, And I did watch all 9 seasons, and I'm kind of pissed off with the new series for not sticking to the lore. They're rewriting history. I haven't heard anyone else complain about that yet, but I haven't been really following the pulse on the net about the X-Files. I'm sure other people must be complaining about that. But yeah, X-Files is a bit hard to get through because there's a lot of Monster of the Week episodes that are just repetitive. And I really think they're not meant to be binge watched because they just get repetitive if you watch it over and over again. It's like the same formula. And I think, I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, so another question. Did I give away X-Files spoilers? Sorry, I don't recall giving away X-Files spoilers. That's okay. If I did, I apologize. Anyway, so we got I just said it was repetitive. That's not specific. Anyway, we got a question from Don Willie. Do you think the X-Files ending was a cop-out to make up for the lack of a good season? Oh, I think you meant, shush for Don Willie's question. Well, if you don't want to hear the X-Files spoilers, tune out now because this is what the Q&A is for, is going to talk about certain things, and I am going to get into spoiler territory a bit, but I'll give you a bit of a warning. So I'll give you a bit of a warning now. Maybe mute it for like 5 minutes or something. So I'll answer Don's question. The X-Files ending was a cop-out to make up for the lack of good season. Nah, I don't know. See, Don, I hope we get the chance to talk about the X-Files because I'm really curious to get your opinion because I haven't heard your opinion on it yet. Although from that question, I kind of can gather where you're leaning because I haven't done my overall review for the X-Files miniseries yet. But when I do it next week, I plan on covering it and how it wasn't like I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was horrible, and I actually loved episode 2. And I think that kind of got lost in my episode reviews because I did 1 and 2 together in the same video, and I spent most of that video talking about how much I didn't like episode 1. So people might have missed the fact that I loved episode 2, and that was my favorite of the season. Episode 3 was pretty good. Episode 4 was all right. Episode 5 was awful. Episode 6 was awful. So that was my take on the X-Files. So I don't know why they did a cliffhanger. I think it kind of reminds me of Heroes Reborn, how they ended on a cliffhanger when, because when they made this, they had no idea how well or poorly it would be received. But by the time that episode aired, everyone hated the show. And the prospect of Heroes Reborn getting another season is a fucking joke. There's no way. So it was kind of funny. But X-Files had a bit of a different reception. The reception, I think, was overall good. Like, ratings were really good. The critical response was mixed, to say the least. This seems to be like a lot of polarized opinions about the X-Files. But do I think that it was a cop-out to make up for a lack of good season? No, I don't. Because I think in the creators' eyes, they thought it was a good season. And as I said, even me, I think it's a mixed season. I don't think it was a horrible season. And as I said, I'm really, yes, Don Willie, Heroes Reborn was so weak. Indeed it was. Although, if you've seen my review on Heroes Reborn, I didn't think it was quite as bad as a lot of other people did. I think some people were being a bit too harsh on it, but it was bad. I won't sugarcoat that at all. But yeah, so do I think it was a cop-out? No, I think it was a mixed season. I think, and as I said, I'm really eager to sort of talk to you. I hope we get the chance to talk about this in a discussion video, which I have been talking with Josh from Geek on Review, and we can't do it this weekend, but we might do one next weekend. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that, Don. But yeah, because I felt like I was going to be negative on the X-Files, but it seems to me you might be even more negative than me. I don't know. That would be interesting to hear because, as I said, I was mixed on it. And I think my sort of opinion on it is actually worse than the popular opinion because everyone was raving about episode 3 being awesome, and people seem to like episode 4 as well. but I didn't. Yeah, it was mixed. I don't know why the hell they did the cliffhanger ending. I think that was a really stupid move. I think maybe they were trying to manipulate maybe they're just being hopeful that they were going to do something with it in the future, and they're trying to manipulate the executives into, well, this is a good reason to bring back the show because we left it in a cliffhanger and that needs to be resolved, which is bullshit. You shouldn't play with shit like that. You should act like this is going to be the end, because it very well may be. Because if you do it in a cliffhanger and it ends up being the end, then you just fucked over your audience, which is fucked up. But anyway, they ended the main X-Files series on a cliffhanger, and they never resolved it because this miniseries just pretended like it never happened and tried to rewrite it, which is BS. So I don't know. We'll see. All right, enough about the X-Files. Let us move on to some other questions. It's me, KLC says, I'm tempted to just go through the government alien plot episodes. I found the guide for it. I would suggest that. That's a good idea. Although, there's some good. It depends on people's opinions, because some people don't like the government alien plot, or the mythology episodes as they're called, and they prefer the Monster of the Week. I'm not one of those people because I'm not a fan of horror. I think you have to be a fan of typical horror to like the Monster of the Week episodes, or procedural like CSI, because that's what basically it is. It's like procedural CSI, but with aliens or monsters instead of murderers. And I'm not a fan of those. So people who are a fan of those prefer those episodes to the mythology. But if you're like me and you like the mythology, then I'd suggest that. I think that's a good idea. But there are some. Maybe check out some of the other Monsters of the Week that are said to be good. Although, for me personally, there's some fan favorite episodes which I hate, which I think are the worst episodes ever, but everyone else seems to love them. I don't know why that is. Okay, anyway. Don Release says, too many cop-outs with the endings of these shows. Absolutely. Andrew Colley, Q&A, who do you think will die in... Whoops, sorry, that's a Game of Thrones question. If I answer your Game of Thrones question, that will invite other people to ask Game of Thrones questions, and I specifically said no Game of Thrones questions for this thing. I'm tempted to answer that because I have an answer, but I can't break my own rule because that will invite other people to ask questions, and I want to keep this strictly non-Game of Thrones. I will be doing another Game of Thrones Q&A in March, and I have done one last week, so you can check that out. Anyway, so Travis Shaw asks, Marvel or DC? I got asked this last time as well. I tried to cop out and say, well, I don't like comic book movies, but really the answer is Marvel. I've always been, ever since I was a kid, when I was reading comic books. I haven't read comic books since I was 12, so it was the early 90s. Yes, I know I'm showing my age, but so I just saw the Deadpool movie, and he must have been introduced after I stopped reading comic books because I'd never heard of him. I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. But anyway, yeah, I was always Marvel. I was the big X-Men was my big thing. X-Men and the other comic, The New Mutants, which I heard they're actually coming out with a movie for The New Mutants. I'm excited about that, even though it's meant to be a YA Hunger Games Twilight kind of cop-out bullshit, but because it's nostalgia for me. I love that comic book when I was a teenager, so I'd love to see them make it into a movie as long as they do it right. If they do a shitty job at it, I'll be pissed. But yeah, X-Men was always my thing. So that's why I like the X-Men movies, is mainly because of nostalgia, because that was my favorite comic book growing up. I was into the Punisher as well. I dabbled into Spider-Man and Daredevil, but I was never a huge Spider-Man guy. I hated the Spider-Man movies. I'll just put that out there right now. I hated them, all of them. Even the first one and the second one. People loved them. I didn't. I just couldn't stand them. I thought they were ridiculous. Although, to be honest, during the 2000s, I had a very, very sort of narrow view on. I hated comic book movies. I was like, I don't know why. I've kind of lightened up on comic book movies a little bit. There's been some good ones, and I don't look at them as harshly as I used to. But during the 2000s, I would hate them. So maybe that's why I hated the Spider-Man movies so much. I'm not sure. So any superhero movies are you looking forward to? Yes, Captain America Civil War. I'll be honest. I'm not huge into superhero movies, but that one just looks really good. And plus, I loved Winter Soldier. In fact, if you were to ask me, and I'll answer this next question that was never asked, what my favorite comic book movie is, and it's Winter Soldier. Even though I'm a huge X-Men fan, I think Winter Soldier, it was just the best comic book movie. So I am so looking forward to seeing Civil War because it's done by the same people. And in fact, they said that it's kind of meant to be a direct sequel and it's going to have the same high quality. And it just looks awesome too, with like Captain America punching Iron Man. I mean, come on. But the Batman versus Superman thing, I'm not looking forward to that at all. I might see it out of morbid curiosity, but I'm not a DC hater, but it's just it looks stupid. I don't like Zack Snyder. I wasn't a fan of. I never watched 300, and I never will. So don't even bother trying to tell me to watch it. I just will not watch that movie. I didn't like Watchmen that much. It was okay. It was trying too hard. I hated Man of Steel. So not into Zack Snyder and what they're doing to DC, so I don't think I'll bother with Batman versus Superman. And the thing that pissed me off about Batman versus Superman is like when they first announced it several years ago that Ben Affleck was playing Batman, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Ben Affleck!" Me, I didn't give a shit who was playing Batman. I was just pissed off at the concept of them introducing a new Batman in the Superman movie. I thought that was bullshit. I think if they're going to introduce a new Batman, he needs to start out with his own movie. Now, a lot of other people disagreed and be like, well, we got the Batman origin story a billion times. True, but do a independent Batman movie without the origin story then. We just need to get used to him, this new Batman first, before introducing a new one in a totally different movie. And plus, they're introducing all these characters like Luthor, Wonder Woman, Doomsday, whoever the hell that is, and all these other people. And that's why I know this movie's going to suck. Because historically, whenever a comic book movie tries to cram too many characters into the movie, Avengers don't count because that was a group movie and they actually did it right. That was an exception. So if they did like a Justice League, that'd be different. But this, it's just going to be a disaster. Okay, so that was my rant on that. I'm a bit behind in the chat. What are some... Hold on. All right, getting back to the X-Files, Don Willie says the Smoking Man wrote the new X-Files series, and that's quite funny. It's me, TLC. So my favorite episodes are the Monster of the Week episodes. Oh, you liked... Okay, well, if that's the case, then don't just do the mythology if you like the Monster Week, because some people like the Monster Week, like I said, and it's all good. Everyone has different tastes. Me, I'm not a fan of it. I didn't really like Tombs personally, but if you did, then don't listen to me. Watch the Monster of the Week episodes. Okay, Jake the Snake, I just joined the stream. Is this a personal Q&A? As you said, no GOT questions. Well, not necessarily personal. You can ask me questions about other entertainment things, movies, other shows that I cover, Walking Dead, Leftovers, Mr. Robot, anything, basically. I mean, if it's too personal, I'm not going to answer. But if you ask me questions about anything, basically, but mostly we're covering other various topics. We were just talking about the X-Files before. But yeah, no GOT questions just because it will get overloaded. That's the only reason I'm doing it, because just the whole video will end up being about Game of Thrones. And I already did one about Game of Thrones, and I'll do one next month about Game of Thrones. Okay, Don Willie, Deadpool was actually introduced in the New Mutants 98. Oh, really? Oh, that's an interesting factoid. I did not know that. I kind of stopped reading the New Mutants around the time they introduced Cable, which I'm sure you'll tell me the issue he was introduced. I'm sure it was the 70s or something like that. Cable, that's when it exploded, really. The Mutants became really popular with Cable because everyone loved Cable. And that's kind of the time I dropped out, not because I didn't like Cable, just because, well, I grew up and got out of comic books. So it had more to do with my age than anything else. Let's see. The Vintage Guitarist, is there any hope for a proper Fantastic Four movie? If Who is it? Is it Fox? I'm pretty sure it's Fox that have the rights. If they finally let go of the fucking rights and give it back to Marvel, yes. Otherwise, no. If they keep stubbornly, because that's why they made this last Fantastic Four movies, because the rights were about to run out. So they made it so that the rights wouldn't run out, so it wouldn't revert back to Marvel. And it's, I didn't see it, to be honest. Like from the previews, it looked good. I was like really getting ready to see it. I was almost buying my tickets, and then the reviews started pouring in about how awful it was, and I was like, okay, not gonna see this. So I'm actually glad that I was forewarned about it, and I've heard a lot of really interesting behind the scenes tidbits about it, which I find as someone in the film industry or trying to be or knows a bit about the film industry, it's really interesting to hear the sort of tidbits about studio interference. And to be honest, Fox is notorious for studio interference, because the other big example is Alien 3, which they pretty much destroyed from the studio interference. I'm a bit behind, so let's see if I can catch up a little bit. Don Willie, Mark 300 was the truth. Not sure what that means, but no one's ever going to convince me to watch that movie. It's just not for me. Let's see. Where's Jake the Snake? Zack Snyder stumbles on the scripts. He's pretty good with everything else. Oh, well, if you say so. Okay, and personal question, which GOG character would you most like to have sex with? Well, I did say no Game of Thrones characters or questions. But you're trying to slip it in with make it more of a personal question. Marjorie. I'll just say Marjorie. There we go. Daenerys would be my number 2, but I'll probably go with Marjorie. Although, not Daenerys, because Daenerys would mean it. Marjorie would just be put on a facade and just be faking. All right, now I'm getting a bit too dirty. But okay, let me move on to a different question then. Moji, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I'm very notoriously bad at pronouncing names, which people who've watched my Vikings review can attest to. Anyway, asked, I didn't like how the Walking Dead writers just completely bypassed Carl's eye story. Do you think the second episode skipped some plot stuff? I did. But here's the thing, the reception of the fact that the second episode of season 6, and again, I'm getting into a little bit of Walking Dead spoilers, so if you really want to not hear anything, you can tune out. But the second episode it's the 10th episode, but it's the second episode of the half season, had a time jump of, they said officially it was 2.5 months. And most people are really happy about the time jump because they thought that, The Walking Dead historically has an issue of too much filler and taking too long to get to the point. So it was pretty much a good thing that they skipped over a lot of the things that was inevitable, like them cleaning up Alexandria, getting all the zombies out, and Carl healing. So the question is, do I think that they just bypassed the storyline with his eye? No, I would say no. That's just my opinion, because I personally, I don't think we need to see Carl, getting all, the aftermath. But in this episode, we did see the effects of how he's a bit different now, and you could surmise that is because of what happened with his eye, because he's got a different character. He's kind of switched place with Enid, because Enid was the one who was all like, oh, I don't care, I'm just going to go out in the woods and be all stupid. And now Carl's doing that. So, and Enid sort of changed around because of her time with Glenn. So, yeah, I think this will be explored more as the season goes on. I think we'll get more about how Carl's eye is affecting him. So I don't think we needed to see the initial bits of him recovering. I'm kind of glad they skipped over it, but that's just me. Good call on Daenerys, you reckon? Yeah, Joffrey's corpse. No. All right. Well, I want to move past that question. That was a bit of a crazy question. I don't know. He thought it was a good call on Marjorie, probably. Haha, lost playing. Okay. Just see. It's me, TLC. I know this is generic, but Danny is my girl. Well, that's good. Anyway, we're talking about Game of Thrones. I said no Game of Thrones. All right, so we'll move off that. Anyway, vintage guitarist, watch any anime, and the unfortunate answer is no. I never got into it. I could just never get into it. I tried, but it's just not for me. Like in the 90s, like I had a lot of friends saying that I think it's Akira. You'll probably tell me I'm pronouncing it wrong because I pronounce everything wrong. But it's this anime movie is supposed to be one of the best movies of all time. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't blown away by it. And I've seen some other anime too, and I don't know, it's just not for me. I never really got into it. There was this one anime movie that I loved, but I can't remember what it was called. It came out in the 90s, in the late 90s. I remember watching it. It was very twisted. I tried to describe it to people, but they didn't really know what it was. I don't think it was all that popular. But anyway, okay, so Akira equals truth. Yeah, I don't know. I just could not get into it, Don. All right, so I'm caught up in the chat, so let me go on to the next question that Paul Zed had, which is, so we're getting back to Star Trek here. Are you going to do a top 10 best or worst Star Trek episodes of all time video? And the answer is yes, but not for a really long time. In fact, like I have a list, as I was saying, I have a list of all the videos I plan on doing in the future, and this one is way at the bottom, so it might be like another year or so, to be perfectly honest, before I get to it. Because it's not a high priority to me, because I have top 10s for the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. So if I do a top 10 for all of them, I'm kind of just repeating what I've said in those other videos, but rearranging it. And it doesn't, and what I did plan on doing was a top 20. So not just top 10, but top 20. And I'll do top 10 worst episodes. So top 10 worst episodes and top 20 best episodes. But yeah, it's not a high priority to me, and I have so much going on. And because I'm doing these weekly episode reviews, like all the videos I was planning on doing are getting pushed like even further back, so I don't know if I'll ever get to them. But because you ask, as a special treat for you, Mr. Paul Z, I will tell you right now my top 10 Star Trek episodes. So when I do my video in the future, it'll be top 20 and top 10 worst. But right now, I'll just give you my top 10 best really quick. I don't get into like long explanations, but because you asked, I will tell you right now. Number 10 is The Inner Light, the Next Generation episode, where Picard lives another life in the memory. Everyone loves that episode. Number 9 is Drone, the Voyager episode. I was just watching this episode yesterday because I hadn't seen it in a long time. It's one of my favorite episodes, with 7 of 9 sort of being the mother to this new drone who has like this super technology. And it's just such a touching episode. It's my favorite Borg episode. Number 8 is Yesterday's Enterprise. Everyone loves the Yesterday's Enterprise. Enterprise C travels to the present, changes the timeline to where Tasha Yar is still alive, but they're at war with the Klingons. Great stuff. Number 7 is Deadlock, the Voyager episode where they have two Voyagers together and they have 2 Captain Janeways meet. I think that's an underrated episode. The Vidines come in and fuck shit up and destroy the ship, but there's another ship still alive. It's just a great episode. Number 6 is The Quickening, the Deep Space Nine episode where Dr. Bashir has to cure an incurable disease, and he runs up against this disease. He thinks he can cure it, but spoiler alert, he can't. And it was such a sad episode. It was such a really good character building episode that showed off Alexander Siddig's acting chops. It was really good Bashir episode. I totally loved it. Number 5 is Year of Hell, Voyager episode, where this ship with the dad from that 70s show he actually played the villain. RoboCop is where I know him more from. But they go around altering history, and Voyager totally gets fucked up, and it comes to the point of being totally destroyed destroyed. I love episodes like that where the ship is like totally like on the verge of destruction. And the time travel thing, everything was really good. So I love Year of Hell. Number 4 is All Good Things: The Next Generation. Final episode of the whole series where Picard travels into different time periods. And Q ends up being behind it, and there's this anomaly that's going to destroy it. I think that was the best. Well, I call that, when I did my final episodes, I think that I called that my number 2 final episode of all time. Number 1 was Breaking Bad, because got to give Breaking Bad respect. But this was a very, very close number 2. And number 3 is City on the Edge of Forever, the original series episode. Who doesn't love this episode, where Kirk travels through this time portal called the Guardian Forever back to the 1930s and finds out he has to let the woman he loves die in order to keep history the same. It's such a touching episode. I loved it. Number 2 is In the Pale Moonlight, the Deep Space Nine episode that I reviewed with Phil the Issues guy over on his channel, and you should check that out if you haven't. Awesome episode where Sisko schemes with Garrick in order to manipulate, to trick the Romulans into joining the Dominion War. Such a great episode. I cannot say enough good things about it. And my number 1 favorite episode is Duet, the Deep Space Nine episode where Kira has to deal with a Cardassian war criminal who was, committed all sorts of atrocities. So that has always been my favorite all-time Star Trek episode of any series, because I'm a stickler. I love shows or movies where it's just 2 people in the room talking it out, and if they can make it really suspenseful and really edge of your seat just through 2 characters' dialogue, that impresses me personally a lot more than special effects, actions, shit blowing up, or even like beautiful cinematography like The Revenant or Gravity. That shit doesn't give it to me. But when you put 2 people in the room and have them talk and it be totally engaging and suspenseful, that's what I love. So that's my number 1 favorite episode. It's basically a bottle episode. All right, so sorry for all the Star Trek talk to people who are not into Star Trek. I might have put you off. Let's see what the chat is saying. Sorry, I kind of ignored you while I was saying that list. Okay, so first, hold on. Let me just say, so good list so far. Let's see. Sine K. I'm not talking about Game of Thrones in this video. Sorry, you can check me out on another video for that. Yes. Okay. So M says both good Deep Space Nine episodes. Absolutely. Mine is Into Armor in Silent Leas. Ooh, hard to pronounce that one. But yeah, that's a very good episode. I love that episode. If you watch my top 10 Romulan episodes, that was, I think it was number 4, number 3. It was up there. So I like that episode, but not quite enough to make my list. Okay, so let me backtrack a bit because I think there's some questions here I missed. Let's see. Jake the Snake. All right, we're getting back to The Walking Dead here. Jake the Snake, do you think the second close call with Glenn in episode 9 is the showrunners emphasize he's expendable? Now, maybe. I don't know. I don't think you can read too much into that. I think that's the showrunners fucking with us. Honestly, if they kill Glenn off now, I'm going to be pissed because of all the fucking fake outs we have. Because if they kill him off, I'm just going to be like, well, why didn't you just kill him before? What's the point in having him crawl under the dumpster and be alive so you can just kill him off? I'm really not pleased with the show for what they did with Glenn. I think that's pretty awful. All right, and we'll get to Don Willie. He says, is Star Trek better left to the big screen, or are you really looking forward to the rumor new series? Actually, I would reverse that personally, Don, that Star Trek is better off on the small screen, and I'll get to that later in the other fan question I had. But yeah, Star Trek's always better on TV, personally. Even though there's some great movies like The Wrath of Khan, and although I think First Contact is a bit overrated. But yeah, Voyage Home, Search for Spock. But Star Trek has always been better on TV. So I'm actually really excited for the new TV series, and I'm not at all excited for the movies. In fact, I would go the other way around. I think they should give the movies a rest and just have it on BTV, because that's where it's always been better. For me, personally, that's how I see it. Travis Shaw, what sort of games do you play, PC or console? See, I'm not a big gamer. I actually don't play games, to be honest. I don't really have time between doing these videos and watching all the TV I watch in order to do the videos, and having to do all this other stuff with personal life, work, you got to feed yourself. And so I personally avoid PC games because they're addictive, any kind of games, because they're addictive, and I ain't got no time for that. But on occasion, I play SimCity, which came out in like 2002, so it's like 15 years old. Yeah, so I'm not much of a gamer, so don't talk to me about gaming. SimCity 4 is the one I play, not the first one. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's like 16 years old. Let's go down a bit. So, have you seen Locke? And that's from Vintage Guitars. Yes, I have. Is it? Yes, because this is getting back to the two people in the room talking, and that's why I purposely wanted to see it, because everyone was talking about how great a movie it is. And it's basically, if you don't know, Locke is a movie. It's not about John Locke from Lost. It's a movie with Tom Hardy driving in a car and having phone conversations with various people. But the entire movie takes place in this car ride, and all you see is Tom Hardy in the car. Like, you don't see who he's talking to on the other line. You just hear the voices coming through the speaker on the phone as he's talking to them, and they create a narrative out of that. And I was really impressed with that. As I say, I love it when people can tell a story with the minimalistic style for that, and just have him talking on the phone. But that being said, it's not one of my favorite movies. I enjoyed it, but I don't think there's enough to the story. I think Tom Hardy was amazing in it. He's a really good actor. But yeah, I didn't. When I did my top 10 movies of 2014, it was an honorable mention, I believe. Oh no, I don't think it even cracked my honorable mentions. So yeah, it wasn't one of my favorites, but it was. I enjoyed it. I liked the effort too. Hold on. Sorry, I'm a bit behind again. Who should play Cable in the Deadpool sequel? That's what M asks. Let's see. So, I heard a really good. I don't know if you guys watch Screen Junkies movie fights. That's one of the things I watch all the time. I love Screen Junkies, and they have this show called Movie Fights, where they have these people arguing about movies, and they often talk about comic book movies, which is where I get most of my comic book movie information from. But one of them suggested Bryan Cranston playing Cable, and I was like, fuck. That's the best thing I've ever heard. They had Bryan Cranston play Cable. I know he's not buff, but he can be kind of buff. Some of these roles, I don't know. They can always make anyone look buff. But yeah, I'd love to see Bryan Cranston play Cable. Kurt Russell should play Cable in X-Men. I can totally see it. Yeah, Kurt Russell would be good too, although I hear he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy too, and he's probably going to play Star-Lord's dad, which I think is a perfect role for him. So that might be his introduction in the Marvel Universe. Travis Shaw, you asked me, did I miss? No Game of Thrones questions. Sorry. Okay, so Travis Shaw, did I miss your question? Oh, the game key. Yeah, you passed. I got to that. Cool. All right, so caught up. If you have any more questions, go ahead and ask. I'll get to the other. So the last question, and Paul Z's questions, which is, what are your expectations for Star Trek Beyond? Will you review it? Do you think the Enterprise will be destroyed like in Star Trek 3? So this is something I actually really wanted to talk about. I was going to make a video about this, but as I say, I'm too busy with all these other videos where it's just, if I just come up with something at the last second, it just pushes everything else back. So I tried to avoid that, but I was going to make a little post about this on my Facebook page. And again, there's another plug for my Facebook page, because I do put some things up on there that I don't have time to make videos for. So if you haven't liked my Facebook page, you should, like that and give it a try. But with Star Trek Beyond, it looks awful. It looks terrible. I was so disgusted by this trailer. They have the freaking director of the Fast and the Furious, and it looks like a Fast and the Furious movie with Kirk jumping over a motorbike and his Beastie Boys playing. And oh my God, what the fuck are they doing to Star Trek? This is what I was saying to Don Willie. This is what I was saying earlier to you about how they should just stop making movies and do TV shows, because this is bullshit. Bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for screaming if I challenge your ears, but it really gets under my skin. And yes, Jake the Snake, I agreed. It looks so bad. Absolutely. And I hope, oh God. So I'm going to see this movie out of morbid curiosity. But I think I hope it bombs so that they'll stop making, because if you don't know my position on overall Star Trek, these new Star Trek reboot movies, is that I don't like them. In fact, I liked Into Darkness better than 2009. Which goes against the common. I actually might make a breaking conventions video about that, because that goes against the common consensus, because everyone seems to think Into Darkness was shit and 2009 was great, when I think they're both bad, but Into Darkness wasn't quite as bad as 2009, which was just a travesty. Product placement, Kirk becoming captain when he's still a fucking cadet. What the fuck? Sense is just so, and the only reason I enjoyed Into Darkness is because after I saw the first movie, I managed to just turn off the logic part of my brain when watching these movies, because I know they make no sense. They're just like these summer action CGI explosion, CGI. There's no characters to them. The characters are cardboard. Kirk is acting like a snotty little James Bond wannabe brat. That's not what fucking Star Trek is. These movies are not Star Trek, and this movie Beyond looks like fucking Fast and the Furious. All right, I'm getting angry again. So fuck these movies. But I actually have more hope in what they'll do with the TV show, because the Bad Robot guys are historically better at doing TV than they are doing movies, in my opinion. Anyway, and I think they may be a bit more respectful in the TV show, even though it's very likely that the new TV show will be set in this fake reboot parallel universe. Even so, I think they might do a much better job with the show, because they have more time for character development, and I think that's what Star Trek is all about. All right, sorry for that rant and the screaming. Let's move on here. Let's see. There was about 3 years between joining and Maiden Voyage. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about there in Accumulate Knowledge. Don Willie says, tracking the Furious into the drift. Exactly. Okay, so a few questions back here from Ian Renfro. Have you seen The Room? If so, any thoughts? Okay, now I have to ask, are you talking about The Room or Room? Because you could not possibly be more different in qualities. Because The Room was actually a movie I was going to talk about later on. Anyway, The Room is so can you specify for me real quick? I know there's a bit of delay, so it'll be a little while before I hear your answer, but do you mean Room or The Room? Because he wasn't a cadet. Yes, he was. They even said, like, in Into Darkness, he said, when he got demoted, he was saying, you're going back to school. Anyway, the one with Tommy Wiseau. Okay, so you're talking about The Room. Oh, hi, Mark. How's the cancer? You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Well, I'll be completely honest. I haven't seen the whole thing of the movie. I've been meaning to. It's something I've been wanting to see. But I watched a whole lot of videos on it, like a lot of CinemaSins and a lot of other like really, really detailed reviews that go on for like a half an hour. So I feel like I've seen it because I've seen like all the highlights of it, and I've seen like the important bits of it, like you're tearing me apart, Lisa. There's actually a movie theater in the city I live in downtown that plays it once a month as a sort of cult thing. So I might go check it out then. And I think it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show where people throw shit at the screen and yell out at the times. That might be fun to do that. But okay, so you're talking about The Room. So yeah, it's funny. But typically, and I've said this before, I'm not one who likes to watch bad movies to laugh at them. I'm not into the it's so bad it's good sort of thing. I typically like the Ed Wood movies and stuff like that. It's just not how I get off. But I'll be honest, The Room kind of piqued my interest. I mean, that's why I've been avoiding it. That's why I haven't seen it yet, is because typically that's just not my thing. But it's funny. I like the whole, oh, hi, Mark. And because I'm actually credited on IMDb, talking like I'm hot shit, but I know I'm not. I'm just nothing. But anyway, I've done post sound editing for a short film that was shown in a few international film festivals in America, even though it was made here in New Zealand. But it's not hot shit. Nobody cares about that movie. But anyway, but I've done post sound for a movie before on a professional level, and it was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. It was so stressful. Of course, we didn't have the proper equipment, and so I'm always very appreciative on post sound and the sound in movies, and that's the first thing that jumps out at me about The Room is the sound is not even in sync. Oh, hi, Mark. It's like a Godzilla movie. Oh, look, it's Godzilla. Like, and the sound is so awful, and that's the thing I can't get. And to be honest, like, having made and seen a lot of amateur short films and like low zero budget short films, that's the main mistake that students and first timers tend to make, is not having good sound. Like, even like if you watch the Star Trek Renegades, which was a fan source made Star Trek series, which I've avoided talking about because I didn't like it. But I like the effort that they made. I like how the fans got together and funded their own Star Trek film. I like it, so I don't want to actively discourage that, even though I didn't think it was that good. But but that's the thing. Like, that Star Trek Renegades had awesome special effects. Like, I was surprised. Well, like, for the budget that they have for being like fan funded, I was really impressed with the special effects, and that they got these big name actors. Well, I don't know big names, but in the Star Trek world, they're big name actors. They appeared in, they had fucking Robert Picardo and people like that. But the sound wasn't good. Come on, that's the thing. Most of these first timers, amateur, they don't pay enough attention to the sound. They focus more on the visuals, and that's something they grilled to us at film school. Is sound is 50% of the film, and that's the first tell that you're watching an amateur film if the sound is off, and that's what The Room is. The sound is awful. Anyway, so enough ranting about the sound. Is You're My Favorite Customer must be The Room quote. I haven't seen it, as I said. I only know certain quotes of it. Sound is 51% of your final product, says It's Me TLC, and that is correct. That is correct. Okay, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. All right, enough about The Room. Let's talk about Room, because I just saw that movie again a couple weeks ago, and it is okay. And when I did my top 10 favorite movies of 2015, it was number 1, but I had only seen it once. So I said, well, I'll have to see it again to see how I feel about it. I like it even better the second time. And to be perfectly honest, and I don't know if this is something I should admit here on the internet, but I cried the whole way through, even the second time. I thought, well, surely I won't cry again, because I've already seen it. But I saw it the second time with a friend, and she was making fun of me for crying through it. And it's the only movie. Like, it's not like I'm a like waterworks for every movie I see. There's hardly ever I cry in movies. And I'm not saying that as true, but I almost said The Room. Sorry. But Room, I don't know. I just couldn't help myself. And so I love it. And I would go even further than saying it's my favorite movie of 2015. Has officially reached my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It is in my top 10. That's how much I love that movie. So the Oscars are coming up this Sunday. And so if I was going to do like an Oscar pick video, but I decided not to because the whole thing would just, every single category that Room is nominated for, I think it should win, even though I know that it won't because the Oscars are bullshit. But Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Director, Room should win all of them. But the only one that it will win is Best Actress. And if it doesn't win Best Actress, then I might have to murder someone, particularly someone involved with the Oscars. Come on. You got to give Brie Larson Best Actress. But yeah, so that's my all-time favorite movie. Let's see. Jake the Snake. Are you aware of the rampant Star Wars theories? If so, do you think they're getting out of hand like most GOT theories? Yes. Yes, on both accounts. I am aware of them, and yes, they are getting way out of hand. In fact, they're worse than Game of Thrones. Exactly. They are worse than Game of Thrones theories. Some of these Star Wars theories are just the dumbest thing you've ever heard. Like, I was watching this theory about how Maz Kanata was actually in the original Star Wars movies as a Jawa. I'm like, no, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, so I completely shut myself off from these Star Wars theories because, oh, sorry if I hit the mic. Sorry for your headphone listeners. Didn't mean to do that. But, yeah. So I completely ignored these Star Wars theories. They're just, oh my God. Okay, what else have we got? I still need to see Room. Well, don't worry, I won't spoil it for you. Just that I cried the whole way through. It's a great movie. I loved it. Yes. Yeah. Sorry if I hit with the sound. Sorry about that. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, let me just move on because I've almost been going for an hour, so I don't want to go on for too long. So let me cover some of the other topics I want to cover, like I was just talking about my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I rearranged it slightly. I don't know if you guys have seen my top 50 movies video series. Probably haven't because I did it like over a year ago. But I changed things around. So what I'm going to do is on my Facebook page, and I might do this on the comment section of this video as well, or the description of this video once I'm finished making this video. And on my Facebook page, I will link to the IMDb list where I have my top 100 favorite movies of all time. I know most of you probably don't care, but that's fine. If you do care, you can check it out. And I'll put that on my Facebook page. I'll put that in the link in the description below, and I will just read out to you my revised top 10. Okay, here we go. So let me bring that up for you. It's really similar to what it was before, so if you've seen these videos already, it will sound similar, but you know, some of them are knocked down a bit. Number 10 is Lost Highway. Good David Lynch film. Always my favorite David Lynch film. Much better than Mulholland Drive, in my opinion. Number 9 is Leon the Professional. Great film. Number 8 is Mother Night. You probably never heard of this film, but I don't care. I love it anyway. And as I said in my review for this video, I'm not being hipster and saying, ooh, I'm cool because I like this movie you never heard of. It's just because no one ever heard of it isn't going to make me pretend like I don't like it, like it's not one of my favorite films, because it is. It's with Nick Nolte. It's about him being a sort of fucked up Nazi spy. He's like a propagandist, and it's just so good because it goes into like the dark side, and it's based off of a novel from Kurt Vonnegut, but won't get too much into it. But if you haven't seen it, which you probably haven't, I would recommend it. It's from 1996, so it might be hard to come by. It was a kind of low-budget Canadian film, but it was really good. Number 7 is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Everybody knows that. That's my favorite Lord of the Rings movie. I used to be so into Lord of the Rings when they first came out, and I still do. I like them, and Return of the King was a fantastic movie. Okay, before I do my top 5, let me just double check the chat. Another Q&A. Okay, let me just finish with my top 10. Where are we at here? So number 6 is Aliens. Aliens, always my favorite alien movie. I personally, like I said, I'm not as big into horror, which is probably why I prefer Aliens to Alien, because Aliens is not horror per se. It has horror elements, sure, but it's more suspense, action, thriller, sci-fi, and it's for me, it's the perfect sci-fi action movie. Like better than like Matrix, Terminator, any of those other ones. Aliens is the one that really does it to me. It's just so perfect, and it's James Cameron's best film by far, in my opinion. In fact, I can go on a rant about how James Cameron sucks now, like Avatar, Titanic. Come on, that's bull crap. All right, number 5 is Cloud Atlas, and that was my number 2, but I dropped this back a bit because I realized that it's not maybe quite as good as number 2, but I still really love this, and I still think this is one of the most underrated movies of all time. I loved it. It does have some flaws, which is why I dropped it back to number 5, and the flaws mainly being the makeup and how it's kind of offensive to Asian people. How they tried to make white people look like Asian people, and they did a horrible job, and they looked more like Romulans. And some of the other makeup is just really bad. But some of it's good, actually. Some of the makeup, like Halle Berry, they make her look like a male tribal person on the Pacific Island. I had no idea it was her. They did such a good job with that. But overall, the story is just, to me, this is by far the Wachowski's siblings' best film. Love it so much more. It's got that sort of, it has 6 stories and going simultaneously. And what some people I think don't get is that you can't say, oh, I like this story better than the other, because they all form to make one story, and you can't pick one out and tell it separately, because it's all told together. And the way that it works like that, like, it's got the best editing I've seen of any movie. And number 4, as I said, is Room. That's right. It's made my top 10 at number 4. Now, it is, I've only seen it twice, and it's just fresh in my head. So maybe this, like Cloud Atlas, this might end up coming down in the future after I see it later. But I was just so blown away by this movie. I mean, there's so much to like. Like, I love how it breaks Hollywood conventions, and it should be like the subject matter, which I think is better to go in knowing nothing about it. Don't watch the trailer. Do not watch the trailer for this movie if you haven't seen it, because it spoils too much. I'll say that right now. It's better to go in not knowing anything. So I won't spoil it for you now, but I'll just say that it's sort of I lost my train of thought. But no, it should be dark and depressing with the subject matter, but the way they play it is through the eyes of this 5-year-old boy, and so it has this sort of lightheartedness and sense of wonder to it through this really dark material. And like, I watched this honest trailer for it recently, and they said, oh, it's so depressing. But I disagree. I don't think it is. It should be depressing because of what happens in it, but it's actually not, which is why I just love the way that they pulled it off. All right, number 3 is Memento. As I said before, my favorite Christopher Nolan film. I'm not too big on Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, but I love his non-Batman movies, and Memento, to me, will remain his masterpiece. It's just the whole non-linear. It's the best non-linear film I've ever seen. And you know that they're remaking this? What the fuck? Why the fuck would you remake a masterpiece like that? Anyway. Let's see. OJ Ozone, Cloud Atlas is awesome. Great. Thank you. Glad someone else agrees. Let's see. Vintage guitarist is Lord of the Rings while you moved to New Zealand. No, I won't get in why I moved to New Zealand, because that's a bit too personal for me. But it's mundane. If you think it's an exciting answer why I moved to New Zealand, it's not. It's a very mundane answer, but I just don't like talking about it. And but I did move to New Zealand in 2004, just after Return of the King aired. So I went and saw all the tourists. I went to Hobbiton, saw where the Hobbit set was, and I've seen a lot of where they filmed Lord of the Rings and took the tours and all that. But it's not why I moved to New New Zealand. Okay, so let me finish. My number 2 is Donnie Darko, which moved up from number 3 because Cloud Atlas got knocked down. Donnie Darko. It gets... Donnie Darko seems it's because at first it was an unknown movie, then it had this huge cult following, then it seemed to come this backlash where now it's like mixed, where people love it or hate it, which I don't know how that happened. I guess it's because it was so unknown, and then so a lot of people never heard of it, and they watch it and like, wow, this movie's amazing. But then it got to the point where everyone's saying it's amazing, so more people come and watch it and be like, this isn't amazing, it's shit. Where it's really meant for like a niche crowd. And I think the same's true of a lot of these films I like Cloud Atlas. They're meant for a niche audience. And to be fair, there's some films meant for a niche audience where I fit outside of that niche, so I do not like them. Like, what was that one with Scarlett Johansson, Under the Skin? Ugh. Could not stand that movie. Most people will say, oh, you just don't understand it. And to be fair, same people say that about Cloud Atlas and Interstellar, but it's not so much that we don't understand, it's more of you fall outside of the target audience. Okay, and finally, my number 1 movie is the same number 1 as it was before, 12 Monkeys. It's an amazing film, breaks all the Hollywood conventions. I saw it 6 times in the theaters when it first came out in the 90s. Since then, remains and will always remain my favorite film. The other day, I tried watching the TV show, the sci-fi show, the 12 Monkeys. I got like 5 minutes through, and my rage level was so high. I could not finish it. It's just shitty. You know, Sci-Fi Channel makes a lot of like shows that are like low budget, set in Vancouver, and you can tell they come off as like sort of syndicated. They have this low quality to it that's sort of hard to articulate. And the fact that they did that with my favorite movie of all time, that's something I cannot tolerate. And I tried watching it just out of morbid sense of curiosity, but I was ready to smash the wall. I will not be. I think it's better for me if I try to just pretend that show doesn't exist. In fact, when I was doing research for the video, my review on the movie 12 Monkeys, I kept getting all these like articles and pictures about the TV show, and it just angered me. The TV show does not exist. Okay, just leave it at that. All right. So okay, Zora High asks me, what do you think of Australians? I don't know. I don't, like most New Zealanders have like a huge feud with Australians, and I've heard a lot of Australian jokes. I don't know if I know any of the Australian jokes off my top of my head, but the one that sort of was favorite to me was this postcard I saw, which had a picture of New Zealand, of the North Island and South Island, like which were really big, and it labeled them as like North Island, South Island, and this tiny little picture of Australia that said West Island, and labeled it all as New Zealand. That's sort of my favorite jab of Australians. But other than that, Australians, no. Okay, Jake the Snake asks, are you a fan of Stanley Kubrick? And I know I skipped some questions. I will go back to them shortly, but I wanted to get this. Because the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. I'm not a fan of Stanley Kubrick. I appreciate that he was a great director technically, and that he made a lot of films that people consider the highest quality. But me personally, never really got into him. In fact, I was going to do this video a while ago of my top 10 most overrated movies. What I personally feel were the most overrated movies of all time. And it got to the point where it's time for me to do that video, but I was kind of hesitant to, because I know that I would get so many pissed off people. It's not like, you know, usually it's like when I first came with the idea, I was like, oh, who cares if they're pissed off? I'm going to say my opinion regardless. I don't care if people are pissed off about it. But I had to question, like, what's the point? Because it's not gonna do my channel any favors. It's going to earn all these downvotes and have all these people being raging at me, because that's inevitably what happens when you do overrated lists, because that's the whole point of overrated, is that you're telling the general public that these movies that they think are great are actually not good, when of course it's just my own personal opinion. But anyway, the whole point of me bringing this up is because Stanley Kubrick has a lot of movies on that list. I think a lot. I will leave that unknown, but personally, I think a lot of his films are overrated, and that's just my humble little opinion. I do respect him as a director, but I personally do not prefer his movies. And the other director is Ridley Scott. He's the other one who you will find a lot of overrated. Not Alien, though. I don't think Alien's overrated. I think that's okay. But a lot of his other films, Gladiator, I don't mind. Actually, I don't mind saying Gladiator sucks. I don't mind that. If you disagree, it's fine. That's your opinion. But I am going to proudly say I fucking hate that movie. But that's just me. Anyway. Let's see. So other questions I skipped over. Hold on. There was one back here, I believe. M asked opinion on RoboCop movies, please. The first one was good. The sequels were pretty stupid, silly, waste of time. The reboot was, it's a reboot. Why the fuck are they rebooting all these movies? All about the cash, all about the money. Just give it a rest. We don't need to reboot every film. To be fair, I don't think the reboot of RoboCop was as useless, a waste of time as the reboot of Total Recall. I don't know why the fuck they even bothered with that. But RoboCop was almost there, but not quite to that level. First one was good, but I'm not like it didn't make my top 100. I'll say that. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's fine. I liked it. So have you seen Cabin Fever 2016? No, I haven't. All right, what is your number one shittiest movie? Well, see, and Azora High asked this. See, that's hard to answer, because it's hard for me because if I say shitty movie, then you find something like a B movie or a really low budget horrible movie like The Room or something like that. Which I don't really know if I have an answer to, which is why I did the overrated list instead, because the movies that people say are great that I didn't like, which of course irritates people. So you wouldn't call it the shittiest movie ever, but it's the movie that everyone else loves that I like the least. And so I'll name you that, and that is, the internet's going to kill me if I name you that, but... But I will say this movie is a certain superhero movie from a director whom I really like, involving an actor who is now deceased, who everyone said gave the best performance as a villain. Okay, that's what I think is the most overrated movie of all time, and I'm sure I'll receive some death threats just from mentioning that. But be honest, but I wouldn't call it the shittiest movie ever, not by a long shot. It's just overrated. Shittiest, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. Maybe Gladiator, actually. Gladiator. Fuck. All right, no, these low budget like The Room are worse than Gladiator. I'll give it that. But Gladiator is the biggest, is the worst, like, not obvious piece of shit film. Shittiest film. If that makes any sense. Good call on Gladiator. Thank you. I agree with you on Gladiator. Thank you, M. Some people that agree with me. People that didn't like Prometheus are tripping Ridley. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a Ridley Scott fan. Although I didn't hate Prometheus. Like some people love to hate on Prometheus. I didn't hate it, but then it was, I didn't particularly like it either. Yeah. That's what I said. Best bad movie of all time. See, as I said, I'm not into these bad movies. So I can't really answer that. Let's see. I did not hit her, Mark. I did not. Yes, we're back on The Room. Oh, man. How could you not love Heath Ledger in that? Heath Ledger is fine. He's a good actor. He's not what I didn't like. I didn't like how, all right, now I'm going to get into it because all my friends know not to bring this movie up with me because I just go on this huge rant about how overrated it was. And let me start with the fact that I love Christopher Nolan. I just mentioned Memento is my number 3 favorite movie. All of his, like, most of his other movies are in my top 20. But The Dark Knight, he's just so pretentious. It's like, stop being so pretentious. All right, when the Joker, like, I have no problem with Heath Ledger. He's fine in the movie. But to me, he doesn't save it. Like everyone else, oh, Heath Ledger's so good, he makes the movie so good. To me, that doesn't save it. It's this when the Joker burned the money, I literally almost walked out of the theater. I was like, what? It's just the stupidest thing ever. And to be perfectly honest, even though, you know, Heath Ledger is fine, I prefer the Two-Face storyline to the Joker storyline. The Joker storyline is just so pretentious. Oh, he has these 2 boats. He's going to blow up. It just dragged on for too long. It's pretension. Sorry. All right. Sorry. Now the internet's going to kill me. I'm going to receive death threats, but that's my opinion. I know some other people. See, we're like a closeted group of people who have to hide in the shadows, who talk about how we don't like The Dark Knight because we're in fear of being hunted by the masses. You know, but I am sort of coming out of the closet as a Dark Knight hater, but I should close that closet again anyway. Let's see. Okay, Just Do It. Is that a why am I spacing on his name? What? Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, is that a Shia LaBeouf reference? Did you guys see that Shia LaBeouf when he was saying "Just do it" when someone put it on the video with Stannis burning Shireen? He's like, "Make your dreams come." That was a bit of bad taste. Okay, anyway, you're not my fucking mother. What's that from? Well, that must be The Room. People are quoting The Room again. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. I only know so many quotes from it. Let's see. Was it pretentious that what? Yeah, I'm not going to talk about The Dark Knight. I shouldn't have mentioned it at all because it's just going to open up a can of worms. I'll go back into the closet and hide as a Dark Knight hanger. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up maybe 10 more minutes, 10 and 20. I should wrap up pretty soon. But I'm going to ask you guys something. I'm going to hear some responses for this because I was planning on doing a series of videos where I give my top 10 favorite science fiction movies of each decade. Now it's going to start with the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. But because I had so many videos, I pretty much scrapped them like indefinitely. Like I took them off my list. I might get to it eventually one day in the future, but I'm going to ask you in the chat right now if you want me to name my top 10 favorite science fiction movies of a particular decade. Which decade would you want me to talk about? The 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010s? Or would you rather, if you don't care, you'd rather not hear it at all? If you could probably guess based off my other things. It's up to you. But choose a decade, whoever says the most or whatever. I'll say that at the end of this video. So just put in, if you want me to name a decade of my 10 favorite science fiction movies, I'll tell you. All right, so let me talk a little bit about The Walking Dead before I go. So I wanted to mention what my favorite episode ever of The Walking Dead is, because this is something that I'd never mentioned in any of my videos before, because it came out sort of after or this episode came out before I started doing Walking Dead videos, so I actually haven't covered it in any of the videos I've done previously. But I do plan on sometime in the future maybe doing a Walking Dead top 10 of all of the Walking Dead episodes thus far. Like I did one for Game of Thrones in season 4, and I did it in season 5, and I'll probably do one for season 6. But I'll do one for Walking Dead eventually, maybe after season 6 ends. Maybe I'll wait till season 7 ends. I don't know. But I haven't made that list yet, so I'm not sure exactly all the episodes that would be on that list, but I do know what my number 1 is, and I will just mention that right now. No, not the 50s. I'm not doing the 50s. That's not your option. This is 80s, 90s, or 2000s, or 2010s. Anyway, yeah, I won't go for a while, and so don't freak out on that. But anyway, back to my favorite Walking Dead episode, and that is The Grove, which is season 4, episode 14, where Carol and has to cope with. I'll read the synopsis. Carol has to cope with old secrets and Lizzie's psychotic behavior when she, Tyrese, and the girls take refuge in a vacant house on the way to Terminus. This episode, to me, was the only episode that really, really blew me away, because I think a lot of times The Walking Dead tries to be shocking. It tries to do something to shock you, but it like gets me part of the way there, where I think, oh, that's pretty badass. That's pretty shocking, but it never like completely blows my mind like this episode did. And I love everything about this episode, the way it was shot. Like a lot of times when the Walking Dead episodes try to be artistic, they end up being a bit wanky instead, whereas like the one where I'll get into that one later, but yeah, but this one they pull it off so well. And like when fucking Lizzie killed that other girl, and it's just like, it's okay, and she's gonna kill Judith too. Oh my God, that was like the biggest. That's like a Ned Stark Red Wedding. Ned Stark in his head chopped off Red Wedding moment of The Walking Dead. To me, that was the biggest mind-blowing thing, and that was The Walking Dead at its best. So in my opinion, that is. I don't have locks. What are you talking about? No, I don't like iZombie, and I'm not, and typically I avoid zombie movies and shows, to be perfectly honest. I made an exception for The Walking Dead because a lot of people suggested it, and that's maybe why I'm not as big of a fan as many others. But because I like The Walking Dead despite the fact that it has zombies in it, not because of it. But anyway, getting back to The Walking Dead. So yeah, The Grove was my favorite episode. And the other thing I was going to say about The Walking Dead is my worst, I'll give my number one, the worst death in The Walking Dead ever, which I think it was all these characters who die, and this is the one that pissed me off the most, was Tyrese. Now this is getting back to the episode The Grove, because Tyrese was so good in that episode, and then later on when you see that he's the one who's sort of taking care of baby Judith, and he brings back to Rick, and he's being a mentor towards Noah, who also got killed off, which is a pretty shitty death, but I like the way they did Noah's death. The way they did Noah's death was badass. The way they did Tyrese's death was bullshit. And this is what I was talking before about the wankery trying to be all artistic. This is what they did in the episode where Tyrese died. They tried to be all artistic. Oh, he's having visions of all the people who died before. And it was just so much wankery. It's just like, it was bullshit. And plus Tyrese was he was my favorite, to be honest. Ever since he was introduced in season 3, he was my favorite character because he had so much more character to him. I love how he was willing to like stick up and be a hero. To me, he was like the Morgan, but in a better badass package. Like the fact that he was willing to trust these strangers, and he was willing to stick up for what is good even after everything he's been through. And the fact that they killed him, sorry for you people on headphones, I didn't mean to do that, but the fact they killed him off, and not just killed him off, but killed him off in such a pointless way. It's just like the writers got bored and are like, I don't want Tyrese to be on the show anymore. Let's just write him off. They didn't even make sense. It just like, obviously they just didn't want him on the show anymore, which is, I don't know if it had to do with the actor or contracts or any of that. I didn't read any of that. Maybe someone in the chat will tell me, but it was BS. So that was my number one like death that I hated the most. Okay, so all right, before I go, let me answer some of the shit in the chats. First, M asks, opinion on Star Trek books, David Mack specifically. You know what? David Mack, I don't like his books in particular, and it has nothing to do with the stories. I think the stories he writes is fine, but I just remember his writing style really annoyed me because he has such a long-winded way of describing things. Like he describes like every little thing is like, and there was a picture on the shelf, and there was this thing over there, and it's just so difficult to read. So I personally just don't like the way he writes. I preferred Peter David. He can be a bit wanky, a bit cheesy, I would say. But some of his stuff is good. Who's my favorite? I liked Michael J. Friedman was good. But yeah, I don't know if I have a particular favorite author. Let's see. 18 Miles Out is one of my favorite Walking Dead episodes. Oh, I'm not sure which one that is, to be perfectly honest. I'll have to look that one up. I'll look it up later. Anyway, let's see. Will you ever cut off your locks? What are you talking about? I don't have locks. But I won't cut my hair. No, I like my hair too much. What do we got? iZombies is on Netflix. It's fun, just saying. Well, I have a whole list of shows that I want to watch. And to be honest, iZombie would be at the bottom. There's so many shows people recommended to me. And most of the ones people recommended to me, I loved. So I feel like I should check them out. But yeah, I'm not going to prioritize zombie shows. Sorry. The next one I wanted to watch was Black Sails, which I heard was good. But anyway. No, I had never thought about bleaching my hair. Actually, I had bleached it once before. I did like little stripes in it. And not stripes, but it was like botches. It actually looked really cool. But I tried doing it again after that, and I looked like an 80s hairband rock star. It was awful, so I haven't tried it. So it worked the first time, but not the second time. Because I think I had a friend do it the first time who knew what she was doing, whereas the second time I tried doing it myself. Yeah. Anyway, favorite actor, actress of 2016 so far? You mean the movies? 2016? I don't know. Okay, so Jake the Snake Walking Dead wastes a lot of potential in killing off some of the characters. Yeah, and that's another major issue I had with this show. And I talked a bit about this on the discussion videos I did with Don and Josh, who both totally disagree with me, especially Josh. He's like, what? But that's Walking Dead. That's the whole point of The Walking Dead, to kill off characters. And that's why I'm kind of a naysayer, because I think personally, it's like, again, if you've seen the honest trailer for the Walking Dead seasons 4 through 6 that they just came out, they hit the nail on the head. It was so awesome. What's the point of introducing all these side characters, supporting characters, and oh, this is what they're like, and then they just kill them off? What the fuck? I mean, it's like, that's why this last episode was Spencer, when they were exploring Spencer. That's why I was like, I don't give a shit about Spencer, because they're just going to kill him off. I know this because I've been watching the show, and that's what the show does. It kills off all these supporting characters who, as soon as they introduce, especially as soon as they flesh them out, like people like Tara, who they barely show at all, she's safe because they never show her. But once they start showing her a lot, she's in danger, they're going to kill her off. And that's the thing with Spencer. That's why he's going to die, because they're exploring him more. And I'm sick of it. They need to stop with that bullshit. Anyway, they kill too many characters. That is very much my opinion. Well, and they have too many characters as well. Okay, so many shows, too little time. I have a bunch on my queue, and I haven't gotten to, says Joe Madden. Yeah, that's the way it goes. And plus, at the moment, I was going to mention, I'm rewatching old shows to do top 10 reviews and top 10 videos and reviews. So I'm watching Stargate SG-1, which is 10 seasons of 25 episodes each. It's worse than the X-Files. But to be fair, I'm not watching every single episode. I've sort of cheated because I have seen that series enough where I'm familiar enough with the episodes. So I've chosen 10 episodes from each season, 10 of my favorites, and I'm just watching those 10 episodes. So it's like a Game of Thrones season. 10 episodes of 10 seasons, and it's still taking me a while to get through them all, though. Anyway, Joe Man says, I want to try Narcos. Me too. I've heard that was good. That's another one on my list I think is good. Okay, so before I go, let me mention my top 10 science fiction movies, and I think the 90s won out because I'm not doing the 50s. Two people said 90s, and one person said 80s or 90s. So I'm going to do the 90s. And to be honest, like, the 90s didn't have as many good science fictions as I thought it was. It actually wasn't like a good decade. Like the 80s, I think, had the best. That was the one that was hardest to choose. I had a lot of my favorite science fiction shows, but movies, I mean. But I'll go with the 90s since that went out, and I'll name you my top 10 Let me just find it. Favorite science fiction movies of the 90s, which, of course, is my opinion. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with it, but it's just me. This is just my thinking. And the honorable mentions for 90s is Stargate, the movie, which, of course, isn't nearly as good as the TV show, in my opinion. But that's an honorable mention. Star Trek First Contact. It was a good, fun action movie, but I don't think it's quite as good as most people make it out to be. It's some of the logic I attacked in some of my videos, like especially the time travel logic is a bit questionable. And they tried it. But anyway, I like it. It's an honorable mention. It's a good movie. Jurassic Park is another fun dinosaur movie, although again it's another movie I don't think is quite as good. Like you hear some other people talk about it's the greatest movie of all time. Don't think so, but it's an honorable mention. It's good. All right, so number 10 is Star Trek Generations, as you might be up in arms because it's higher than First Contact. But to be honest, like I like Generations a lot. Like a lot of people love to shit on this movie, but and the ending with Kirk and Picard was kind of stupid. But you take that out, it's an awesome movie. And some of the aspects of like Picard being in the Nexus and imagining the life he never had was really good, really touching. It's just Kirk was shoehorned into that movie, and that's what kind of held it back. But that's the only bad thing about it. Everything else was great about that movie. Okay, number 9 is Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. A lot of Star Treks in here, of course. I'm a Star Trek fan. Undiscovered Country was a great Star Trek movie. Again, not one of the best, but it was more like it was a by-the-numbers political thriller. And yeah, it was good. And number 8 is Terminator 2, Judgment Day, which again, I don't think it's one of the best movies ever, like many other people say. I seem to be saying that a lot. But I liked it. It was good. It was a good fun, good action movie. Number 7 is Gattaca, is an underrated movie with Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke. And I think Jude Law is in there too, about genetic manipulation. It's quite good. I really liked it. Number 6 is Predator 2. Now here's where everyone's going to disagree with me. And I did a whole video about this, about how I think Predator 2 is really awesome, underrated movie. I love Predator 2. And parts of it, like someone earlier asked me what the best bad movie is. And parts of it is Predator 2, because parts of it is really obviously cheesy. And I love it because it's so much fun. Like they take the trope of the angry cop who's always a renegade and the boss is yelling at him. They take that to the extreme, and it was funny. I loved it. Number 5 is The Matrix. Great movie. Again, I keep saying this, but not quite as good as everyone else says it is. But I still think it was a lot of fun. I love how they mesh the philosophical with the action. It's pretty good. And number 4 is The X-Files, Fight the Future, highly underrated movie. It's my favorite X-Files. Like when I did my X-Files episodes top 10, it was number 2, but the main reason I put that at number 2 because I thought it would be kind of a cop-out to put it at number 1 because it's not even an episode, it's a movie. So that's kind of why I put it at number 2. But really, I think it's the best. I mean, if you want the best of the X-Files, you watch To Fight the Future. I love that movie. Like the opening sequence with the building exploding and like John Locke blowing himself up in the building is one of the best like action sequences of any movie. Number 3 is Dark City. I won't spoil this for you. It's kind of a spoiler just to call it science fiction, but it's kind of obvious it's science fiction. Very original movie. I loved it. It was I can't remember that director's name. His last name's kind of hard to pronounce, but he did The Crow and he did Knowing and iRobot, which is surprisingly better than I thought it would be. Because as soon as I heard it as a robot movie with Will Smith, I thought it was shit, but it was actually pretty good. But anyway, Dark City. Best movie ever. Best movie of his, not ever. Sorry, but best movie of that director. And it doesn't have the best acting, but the story is really good. It makes up for it. It's really good. You should definitely check it out if you haven't. It's very goth, especially if you're into goth stuff. Number 2 is Total Recall. My favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Absolutely loved it. Because again, this is kind of similar to The Matrix, and personally, just my personal opinion, I think they did it better, is meshing the action, bring this action with the high cerebral philosophical elements. And I loved how this movie fucks with your mind, and it does it so much better than any other movie did. And of course, my number one is 12 Monkeys, duh, because I talked about that. It's my number one favorite movie of all time. So that's going to be my number one favorite science fiction movie of the 90s. So that's that. So I'll just, yes, Predator 2 over Terminator 2. I know it's a very controversial statement to make, but that's just the kind of guy I am. And again, some people accuse me of being all hipster, but it's not that I'm trying to be different. It's the fact that I'm not going to hide that my opinion goes a bit different than the rest of, just because it doesn't fit with the popular opinion. But if I'm going to be honest with myself, I did kind of like Predator 2 and Terminator 2. I know a lot of you disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to dispute that. It's just my personal taste on it. Okay, so Ian Renfro asks, which upcoming films are you most excited for this year? We already talked about Captain America Civil War. I think that's, and I'm actually pretty excited for the Suicide Squad as well. And again, I sort of shat on comic book movies, and I shat on DC in particular, but the Suicide Squad looks good. I'm actually looking forward to it. Not Batman versus Superman. That looks shitty. But Suicide Squad looks good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Suicide Squad and Captain America Civil War. And I'm not too sure about the Star Wars Rogue One. That sounds like I'm skeptical, but I'll see how it goes. And there might be some other movies 2016, but I can't think of them at the moment. Yeah. Kitty's Slaughter Mad. I watched The Matrix for about 2 minutes. Oh, you missed it. You missed a good movie then. He says, am I the only weirdo that likes the Shannara Chronicles? I'd never heard of that. So, and Ian Renfro says, I like Dark City too. Cool. That's great. All right, cool. So I have been going for quite a while now, over almost an hour and a half. So I'm just going to peace out. Thank you all for joining me. Glad you joined me in the chat. Listen to me ramble. I labeled also my top 10 lists, which I will not get into some of my videos because I'm too busy with all of these other videos that I have to do. But as I said, I will be doing weekly episode reviews of Better Call Saul, Vikings, The Walking Dead, and House of Cards and Daredevil around the corner, and I will review those in batches. Also, everyone, please check out. I should have announced this earlier, but I will be doing a live discussion video with Atkin Tomko over on his channel. I think we just confirmed this will be this Sunday at 2 p.m. again, Pacific time in the U.S. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Sunday. That's the plan. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to stick to it. We are going to do a discussion video, and again, we're not going to talk about Game of Thrones. We're going to talk about, I think the 4 topics we decided we wanted to talk about is Star Wars The Force Awakens, the new Star Trek TV series that's announced, so I'll get into more detail about that. The Expanse Season 1, which if you haven't seen, go see it. And The Leftovers Season 2, and even bigger if you haven't seen, go see it. If you haven't watched my top 10 TV shows of 2015, The Leftovers was a very, very, very close number 2 to Game of Thrones. I love The Leftovers Season 2. Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2 was fucking amazing, and I can't wait to talk about that with Atkin Tomko. And if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It is very, very good. So yes, thank you all for joining me in the chat, and I will see you guys later.